Hello friends, Vince here. Before we get into the podcast, I wanted to leave some words of warning, as our episodes are usually lighthearted and wholesome, but this one is a little different. It deals with some graphic content, including unsettling anatomy, as well as depictions of physical and sexual violence. Please be sure that you, and any little friends of legend listening along, are comfortable and prepared before continuing. Thank you! The friend that I'm presenting today is truly a wild one, so I'm going to have to ask you to literally gird your loins as we dive into this.
Consider them girded.
Alright, sounds good. I'm Vince.
I'm Claire.
And this is Friends of Legend! Welcome to Friends of Legend, a podcast where Claire and I learn about a mystical creature every week, picking up pieces of lore and sewing them into a lore quilt that we then swaddle our new pal in.
Aww.
You like that?
Yes.
That's good. We're starting off on a light note because it's going to get a little heavy.
I'm kind of scared. You were making a lot of oohs and ahs when you were doing your research.
Yeah, there's some things about this one that'll trigger pretty visceral reactions for you, and hence the disclaimer.
Yeah, let's dive right into it, shall we?
I think we shall. So, the creature that we are discussing today is the Kappa. Now, are you familiar at all with the Kappa?
I think there was a passing mention in the Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them textbook, but I could be wrong. Can you tell me more?
I'm not surprised if they didn't go into detail. So, Kappas are a type of Japanese demon or yokai, sometimes also referred to as river imps.
Ooh, okay, great, because we've just done the imps, and Kasa Obake are yokai as well.
Yeah, it seems like there are a wide variety of yokai, the Kappa being one of the most famous of them both in and outside of Japan. The word Kappa is a portmanteau of two words that roughly translate to river child. But there are a few other names that Kappas go by, depending on what part of Japan you are in. There is Kawataro, which means river boy.
Aw.
Yeah, it's cute. There's Suiko, which means water tiger.
Ooh.
And then there's Komahiki, which means horse puller. And we'll get into why the Kappa would have such a name a little later into the podcast. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the appearance now, because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to how this thing looks. Have you ever seen a Kappa before?
So, I do my preliminary Google image search before you give me an episode.
Right.
So, it looks to me like some kind of monk-like turtle, and I say that because it's got the sort of hairstyle that you might picture a Roman Catholic monk to have with the big bald spot on the top.
Yeah, it definitely has that Western monk look to it because of the sort of bowl cut with the patch on top. And we'll talk about the hairdo probably last when it comes to appearance, because the necessity of that hairdo is one of the most important parts of the Kappa. But yeah, they do have a very turtle-like appearance. Also some frog elements, the sort of long, thin, gangly limbs with webbed feet and hands. Mm-hmm. They've got beaks that kind of resemble a cross between like a turtle's beak and a duck's bill. Sort of yellow, distinct, but also wide and snappy. Mm-hmm. Their skin, again, frog-like, sort of slimy, scaly, sticky. It smells like fish.
Okay, well, typical of a water creature.
Yeah, it's typically green, but it can also be blue or yellow. Another thing I wanted to talk about in regards to the arms is the arms aren't connected to the body like typical arms are. Inside their turtle shell, the arms are actually connected to each other rather than being connected to the main body. So if a Kappa wants to reach something far away, it can retract the arm on one side.
Whoa.
And reach out with the arm on the other side. And vice versa.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like a tug-of-war thing that it's doing with itself. So I told you that this was going to get weird, but it hasn't really gotten weird yet, has it?
Not really.
Are you ready for it to get weird?
I'm nervous.
The kappa is known for having not one, not two, but 3 anuses.
I wonder why.
I'll tell you why. It has a great love of passing gas, and it will use all 3 of those anuses, I think it's anuses, to pass gas constantly and loudly at passersby.
Oh, that's rude.
Yeah, it is very rude. It is one rude dude. So now getting into the hair, like we said, it's got that sort of Western monk style bowl cut shape. It's a little shaggier than that, with the missing bit at the top. Some kappas have hair all over their bodies, and those kappas are called hyosabe.
Okay.
We're not going to talk too much about hyosabe, just that hyosabe are relatives of kappas and they're hairy instead of scaly. Now to get to that juicy bald bit on the top. Instead of being like a shiny patch of scalp flesh, it's actually an indentation. It's like a bowl. And inside the bowl is water from the pond or river or whatever body of water the kappa lives in. And this bowl is called the sara. And it's believed that a kappa's powers come from water being in the sara. If the water spills, the kappa will become motionless and it will not be able to move or do anything until the water is replaced with water from its
natural habitat.
Thank you. And if you don't replace it in enough time, the kappa will unfortunately expire.
Oh my.
Another thing is, you notice that I said a lot of these names are like River Child, River Boy. Mm-hmm. That's because they don't really get any bigger or taller than a child. So imagine sort of like 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot max Turtle Duck Frogman.
Okay, so Danny DeVito?
Yes, Danny DeVito.
Sorry, Danny, we love you.
We do Danny DeVito, but you should look into playing a kappa, because I think, you already did the penguin. Next step.
The natural progression.
So now that we have a good image in our head of what kappas look like, try to hold on to this silly, playful image, because we're gonna get dark.
What do you have up your sleeve?
How about this? Let's start with some questions that you have. Do you have anything that you're dying to know before I get into sort of the modus operandi?
Well, I think one of the main questions I have about each of our potential friends is kind of the groundwork for how we're going to become close with them, and it's, are they peaceful or aggressive naturally?
So, I would say that kappas are naturally aggressive, though the extent of their aggression depends on how hungry they are. If you're dealing with a full kappa, that aggression, that hostility won't be necessarily violent or deadly. It'll just be kind of rude. Okay. Like I said before, they're rude dudes with just buckets of dude. So kappas, when they are satiated, love to play pranks and be rude to humans. They are best known for their just unending stream of farts, which I wasn't able to find a description of the odor, but you have to imagine that if their skin smells like flesh, it's not going to be much better than that. They also do some other skeezy things, like shout insults at you.
Hey!
Yeah, I know, right?
I didn't even get insulted just now, but I'm offended.
Mm-hmm. It hurts. It hurts to know. And they're also known for the very nasty habit of peeking up women's kimonos. They love to sneak a peek.
Nasty boys.
So that's a kappa when it's full. It sounds unorthodox, certainly not something you want to deal with. But it's not gonna ruin your day, necessarily. That being said, despite this rudeness, they have a really weird, strict code of conduct. If you bow at a kappa, it has to bow back at you. It has to return the bow with the same depth that you do. If you somehow get a kappa to swear you an oath or make you a promise, it will always make good on that promise or oath. It'll never lie to you.
That can come in handy.
And if you play a game with it, it won't cheat. They like to challenge people to sumo wrestling.
Oh.
Or they like people to challenge them to sumo wrestling.
I don't know that I would want to get in close physical proximity to this friend just yet, with how strong the odor seems to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons you wouldn't want to get that close to a kappa, especially given what could happen to you if you lose the sumo wrestling match, which we'll talk about a little later. So yeah, they're rude, but strangely honorable in their own way. That's when they have food in their tummies. Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk a little bit about what kappas like to eat. Let's start with the most wholesome of its favorite foods, cucumber. They love cucumbers, unlike kitty cats. If you are being pursued by a kappa, you can throw a cucumber at it to distract it and make your escape.
That's nice. That's easy to do.
Mm-hmm. And in Japan, or really in any kind of sushi restaurant anywhere around the world, most likely if you see a sushi roll or hand roll or anything like that that has cucumber in it, it'll be called kappa roll or kappamaki or something like that.
We're gonna have to look for that next time we're at a sushi restaurant.
Mm-hmm. In honor of the kappa that just loves those cucumbers, those pre-pickles.
Yeah, refreshing.
Mm-hmm. Even more than that one guy who sings about all the health.
Cucumba.
Yeah. So their next favorite thing to eat is livestock. Remember how I said that one of the names was Komahiki, horse puller?
Yeah.
That's because they just hate cows and horses, and if they see a cow or a horse walking along their body of water, they'll grab it by the leggies and they'll pull it in to the water, and then they'll eat it.
No!
Yeah, they're hungry boys. Hungry boys.
But they're so little. Why do they need that much food?
I feel like, and I'm no kappaologist here. I don't know the interior design of a kappa, but I like to imagine that the inside of that turtle shell is just completely hollow. Just free real estate for cucumbers, livestock, and its third favorite food. And you can probably guess.
Us.
People. If a kappa is hungry and it sees a person, it's going to dispense with the wrestling, it's going to dispense with the farting, the rude comments, and it's just going to go straight to trying to eat you. They love to find people who are swimming, bathing, relieving themselves, fishing, anything, any kind of near the water activities, and just pull them in. And if you are in the water and the kappa's decided that it wants to eat you, it's kind of too late. They swim about as fast as a fish. They are incredibly strong despite their size. And they will either pull you underwater and drown you, or they will eat you alive.
That's terribly unsettling.
Their sort of preferred cuts, so to speak, are they love the blood. They will drink blood. In that respect, they're kind of vampiric.
Before it spills into the water surrounding them, I'm sure.
Yeah, they have to be quick about clamping on. They also really enjoy livers. I don't turn my nose up at a little bit of Leberwurst myself, but of course, human is where I draw the line.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Certainly, definitely. No cannibals here.
And that's a Friends of Legend guarantee.
Their most prized morsel of the human body is called the shirikodama. Have you ever heard of shirikodama?
Can't say I have.
Familiar with this organ in the body?
I am not.
It is a fleshy ball that can be found just inside the anus. Yeah, bringing it back to Anus Town.
Oh.
And they will suck the shirikodama out of the body, and the reason they love this so much is that it is believed that this fleshy ball, this fleshy anus ball, which is almost literally what shirikodama translates to, is where the soul resides.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Does that make you feel good about yourself?
No.
So know that if you see a kappa and it's got hungry eyes, it wants to eat your butt.
Is this the prostate?
Well, I thought it was as well, but the shirikodama is also in ladies. Mm-hmm. It is a sort of mythical organ.
Okay. All right.
Not necessarily something that you would be able to point out in Grey's Anatomy. So that's pretty awful. There's no two ways about it. It's grisly behavior. But unfortunately, that's not the sum of bad things that kappa are known for.
What could be worse?
Well, kidnapping, for one. They do kidnap children quite often, sometimes for sport, other times to eat, like you do.
Well, if they're kidnapping them, then the kids don't really have a fighting chance if the Kappas live in water.
Right. So you have to take your chances and sort of stay away from the water, because on land, they're very slow and clumsy and sluggish, and they're easy to get away from. Also, you could hold on to a cucumber and try to use that as a...
Wave it around.
Yeah. Papaya! And then the worst, perhaps.
Lay it on me.
You know how I told you that kappas like to pick up ladies' kimonos?
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't stop at that.
Oh.
Sometimes kappas will force themselves upon human women.
Oh, no.
Especially if the woman is relieving herself in the water.
Oh.
She's in that compromising position. The kappa will pounce and do the horrible thing. And
That's
then
horrendous. Wow.
It is terrible, and what's worse, it is said that a child born of this Congress is so hideous, so ugly, that it inflicts physical pain on anyone who observes it.
You know what? I don't think I am eager to become friends with a kappa. No, thank you, sir.
I don't blame you. So kappas, they're not joking around. They're serious business. You definitely should not approach a kappa unless you're prepared. That being said, there are many different ways that you can subdue or placate a kappa.
Okay, that's about as much as we can do right now with them.
It's where you need to start, because they're always starting from the negative spectrum, and you need to even the playing field.
Sure.
So the most common way that a person will subdue a kappa is they will bow very, very low to the kappa. And even if that kappa is about to swiggity swipe at you, it will stop and it will return that bow as low as you have bowed.
Right.
The trick is to bow so low that the water in its sada empties out, and then it becomes motionless. And then it's at your mercy, and you can make it swear whatever oath you want in order to fill the sada back up.
That's fascinating.
Another way that you can stop a kappa in its tracks is by challenging it to a test of skill. Like I already mentioned, they love to sumo wrestle, so if you're confident that you can throw one of these river boys back in the water, then by all means go at it.
I personally am not.
No, I'm not very wide. I'm not a sturdy person.
We are both hobbit-like in appearance.
Yeah, this is not the way that I would go about trying to subdue the kappa. But if you win, it will honor whatever oath or promise you make it swear, just like with making it sada empty. They will also accept challenges of martial arts. Apparently they're very good at martial arts, so imagine like a really gross carnivorous Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and you have to stop it before you're the pizza time.
I don't want to share pizza with this guy.
No, well, you're the pizza. That's the thing. It's Shirokodama pizza.
No,
all the way down.
No.
But they're not just physical beings. They actually possess a pretty substantial intelligence. So if you challenge them to riddles, if you challenge them to the game of Shigo, which is like the Japanese version of chess, they will accept those challenges, and if you can beat them, you get your life and whatever else you can get them to swear. That's very reminiscent of Gollum in the mountain in The Hobbit.
Yeah. So what kind of oaths would the kappa swear to you?
Well, whatever you want. If you want it to defend your family for all time, if you want it to be your servant for all time, if you want it to humiliate itself in front of its kappa friends, it has to do what you say.
Oh.
There's a story of a lady who was in the process of being carried away by a kappa, and before things got too dire, she challenged it. She said, "I bet that you are not capable of getting a gourd to sink in your river." And so she gave the kappa a gourd, which of course gourds are pretty light. They'll float in the water. Mm-hmm. The kappa tried for hours to get the gourd to sink, but it just kept floating back up. And eventually it said, "All right, you beat me." And she told it to leave her alone and go away, and it did.
Okay.
So, despite the terrible, reprehensible things that they're known to do, they are beasts of their word.
That is something.
Other things that you can do, these are a little more dangerous, are trying to pull its arm.
Nope.
If you pull the arm all the way out of the shell,
nope,
just like with this. not even gonna humor that one.
Please go ahead.
If you pull the arm all the way out of the shell, then the Kappa, just like if its Sara is empty, will beg you to return it back to its former glory, at which point you have it at your mercy.
This is a horror story.
It is a horror story. Now get ready for baiting.
Okay.
So this is something that dashing adventurers will do if they want to prove their mettle against the wily and violent Kappa. In groups of 2, usually, they'll get to whatever body of water the Kappa lives in. One of them will hide behind a bush or something with a net in hand. The other one will drop trow and bend over, exposing that juicy shirakodama to the water, and just wait for the Kappa to take the bait. As soon as the Kappa emerges, getting ready to get that booty, the other adventurer will throw a net over the Kappa and capture it, at which point they can do whatever they want with it. The last thing I found, though, it's not really reliable, and I wouldn't resort to this if you're trying to subdue a Kappa. In some cases, throwing sesame seeds or iron filings at them will ward them off,
Okay.
But if it's hungry enough, it's just going to ignore that. So your best bet is to stay away from the Kappa's area entirely.
Mm-hmm.
But if you must, start with the bowing and then work your way down. So, you've gotten a Kappa to swear its loyalty to you. It's your friend now. The attitude of the Kappa changes completely.
Really?
It becomes a sort of serene, friendly, helpful, and intelligent creature. It is said that the Japanese people learned how to set broken bones and create medical salves from Kappas that they had gotten to swear oaths to them.
Wow.
So they have just a very vast array of medical knowledge. They also know how to properly irrigate a farm. They'll help people catch fish. A lot of times people will employ a sworn Kappa to protect them and their family from other Kappas.
The wild ones.
The wild ones. At this point, the Kappa has no connection to their brethren. At any rate, adult Kappas live on their own anyway.
Okay.
So you can rely on the Kappa to do anything that is within its power if you've gotten it to swear an oath to you.
Do you know what happens if it when it becomes hungry after it is a friend?
It'll eat cucumbers or livestock, unless you tell it not to eat the livestock.
Well, okay. Okay, that's doable.
It's doable. So now I want to talk about how they're portrayed. Kappas have been and still are very prolific figures in Japanese folklore.
Mm-hmm.
There are just tons and tons of illustrations of them from the 18th century and earlier. A lot of these depict more of the brutal nature of the Kappas.
Sure.
Like one picture I saw was a bunch of Kappas in a pond eating a severed human arm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Bummer.
Nowadays, however, they're cuted up a lot. You'll see them on signs near bodies of water where the signs will say, "Warning, be careful not to drown." A little picture of a Kappa.
It's a very real warning.
Yeah, but it's a lot cuter. It's sort of that chibi look.
Sure.
And there are a lot of pieces of Japanese media nowadays, like movies, television, manga, that depict the Kappa in many different ways. Of course, you know me. I'm going to talk. You know me very well, so you know I'm going to talk about Pokemon.
Please.
There are 4 Pokemon that are inspired by the Kappa.
Really?
Yeah. So 3 of them are in an evolutionary line: Lotad, Lombre, and Ludicolo. I know you love Ludicolo.
I know Ludicolo.
So they all have the kind of duck-like bill and a sort of headdress that it's supposed to be a lily pad, but it also vaguely resembles the Sara. Confusingly, though, Ludicolo has like a poncho and sombrero vibe on top of all of that.
He definitely looks more Mexican-inspired.
And he's very cute, but they are Kappa adjacent. The other one, the 4th one, is Golduck. Of course, Golduck is a lot more duck-like. He doesn't have the shell, but he's humanoid body, webbed hands and feet, duck bill, and in the games, the Pokedex entries for Golduck explicitly state that Golduck are often mistaken for Kappas.
They don't eat people, do they, in Pokemon lore?
No, they don't eat people.
Okay, good.
So yeah, that's the Pokemon side of it. Additionally, in Animal Crossing, I know that there was a character, only in the Japanese versions of Animal Crossing, that is a kappa, but is a friendly kappa that just kind of chills in your village, apparently.
Okay. Okay, cool.
And lastly, this one I found very interesting because I'd never thought about it before. In the Super Mario franchise, Bowser shares a lot of qualities with a kappa.
Oh, wow.
He is turtle-shelled.
Yeah.
He has a sort of distinctive snout that, while it doesn't completely resemble a beak, it is yellow in color in contrast with his green skin, so it sticks out a little bit like a beak.
Right.
And of course, his behavior, he's always kidnapping women.
Oh, no.
So he has a bit of the kappa blood in him. And you know what? I'm literally just thinking about this now. I wonder if that's why he's called King Koopa and all of his minions are called Koopas.
Oh, gosh. You're onto something.
Well, that's something to chew on, I guess.
Wow. Okay, so you've convinced me that kappas can be rehabilitated, or, even better, maybe if we found a baby kappa, we could help to raise it to not do all those horrible, nasty habits that others do.
Potentially. To kind of summarize what I've gone over, if you are, at the very least, not wanting to be eaten by a kappa, keep a cucumber on hand. Something that a lot of people will do even nowadays is they will take a cucumber, they'll carve the names of their family on the cucumber, and they'll throw it in a pond or a river as sort of a substitute so that the kappa will attack that instead of their family.
Oh.
Or like an offering.
Right.
So keep a cucumber on hand. I don't know whether or not they're into pickles. So you might have to keep rotating your stock of cucumbers. Another thing, show it respect. Not just because it's the right thing to do, but because the kappa will be obligated to show you that respect in return.
Mm-hmm.
And it may just save your life. And lastly, think about what you're really skilled at and be prepared to challenge the kappa if you run across it to that test of skill. So, like for example, if you find yourself in a pond in Japan, Claire, and you see a turtley, shaggy, bowl-cut head poking out of the water, say, I'm going to challenge you to some Harry Potter trivia. We'll see how you like that.
Ooh, good thinking, hon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, yeah. I hope they speak English.
Well, they speak a variety of human languages. I saw that it was specifically mentioned that they speak human languages, not just Japan. Though it might just be that they speak different dialects of Japanese.
Could be.
Any other questions you have about the kappa before we get on to the rating?
Do they tend to favor any one particular area of Japan, or are they all over in any body of water?
Any freshwater body.
Right.
Yes. But they are all over Japan.
I just don't think I'm going to be going near any freshwater bodies anytime soon.
At least not without a spotter to have a net.
Yeah.
So that being said, on to the rating. Now, if this is the first time you've listened to this podcast, sorry you had to start with this episode.
You can go back and listen to the cute ones.
Yeah, make yourself feel better and listen to the one about gnomes. But again, if this is the first time you're listening to this podcast, we have a 4-tiered rating system to judge how easy it is to become friends with a given creature. The first tier is friend-shaped, which means they're very easy to get along with. They want to be friends with you, and their lore is just inundated with stories of them becoming friends with people and all the joy and wonder that comes with that.
The next we have is Cheeky Friend. This friend is not hard to connect with on a personal level, but they're prone to mischief, and they can be quite annoying at times, like our new friends, the Imps.
That's right. Third on the tier list is Spicy Friend. A Spicy Friend is definitely harder to become friends with, and before, during, and after that friendship process, you're going to be running some risks to your safety. So you definitely want to keep your head on your shoulders if you're trying to befriend a Spicy Friend.
And lastly, we have Not a Friend Yet. This is a creature who we don't have record of becoming friends with humans, so proceed with great caution.
Before I give my rating, I want to know what you think.
This is a tough one. I wanted to give it not a friend yet for the first half of your lecture, but maybe it's just a higher level of spicy friend, because it seems like you can certainly placate it, but there's a lot of risk to your personal health.
See, I kind of had the reverse sentiment about it. As I was reading, I was kind of thinking, okay, we have another spicy friend here, but the more and more I read about it, the more I realized what you're doing isn't befriending it. The best you can do is get it to serve you.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to help you. It has to help you because you made it.
Right.
And that's if you were lucky enough to not get your butt sucked out.
Oh, you know what? No, I'm reverting back to not a friend yet.
So this is our very first not a friend yet.
Sorry, Kappas.
It definitely seems like there's potential. It's going to take a lot of work, and I think a lot of people and a lot of Kappas coming together. But we're not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Unless it's a Ludicolo, because they're just buckets of friendship.
Yeah, if you've seen Detective Pikachu, there's this precious Ludicolo who is a bartender in one scene. I think that's all you need to know to get on that Pokemon's side.
A lot more wholesome than actual Kappas.
Yeah.
But anyway, I want to thank all of you for coming along with us on this wild, potentially harrowing ride. If you enjoyed what you heard somehow, it would be great if you subscribe to us on whatever podcast service you use. It helps us out a lot.
They're not all going to be like this, you know?
It's true. This is definitely a grittier one, and if you have little kiddos, know that the vast majority of our episodes are a lot more wholesome and kid-friendly.
You know what else is wholesome? Neep time.
Neep time is a wonderful thing, and why don't you tell them a little bit about our friend Neep?
So we've got this sweet little gnome friend Neep. He's kind of like the new mascot of our show, and he has been making YouTube videos for the world to see. And you can find those on our Friends of Legend YouTube channel. There's just 2 out right now. Or you can go to friendsoflegend.com where they will be posted. But if you like Neep Time, let us know. Send us an email. That would really help us out a lot. We want to connect with the people.
Also, Neep loves feedback.
Oh yeah. Neep eats up the limelight.
So, like Claire just mentioned, we have a website, friendsoflegend.com, where you can see our complete library of episodes, the Neep Time videos, frequently asked questions, and you can even reach out to us via email there if you have some more questions about a creature that you heard about, or if you want to suggest a creature for a future episode, or if you got a good dad joke.
Yeah, we're all ears.
We sure are.
Well, I'm not all ears. I also have a nose and eyes. See, that's a dad joke.
I see what you did there. Why don't you go to friendsoflegend.com and send it to me so that you can hear me snort?
But you're right here! Rah.
Rah.
New episodes are up every Saturday. We post them at 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. We live in Austin, Texas. So that should make sure that it gets to all of our international friends in good time for them to hear on Saturdays.
And again, if you subscribe, you will get notified of that episode's release immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Well, again, I'd like to thank you all for coming to hear the tale of the Kappa. And remember, when it comes to Friends of Legend, charm them.
Do not harm them.